Fire Radio.
Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, Christopher Ryan out of Gloucester City, New Jersey, recently promoted captain. Chris, thanks for joining me, brother.
Jeremy, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
You know, New Jersey is such a small state, but man, there are a lot of people that I get to talk to. The fire service is huge in such a small state, and a lot of friends. You know, we have circles that intertwined, and I always talk about my circle always intersects with other people's circles and so on, and that's kind of how we got mixed up, and we got to know each other. And truthfully, I'm going to get to know more about you today on the show, which is what I'm excited about, because I'll say this, Gloucester City stands out in my mind because I joined the fire service in 1995, and I remember in the early 2000s, and we're going to talk about it today because you were directly involved, but on July 4th of 2002, there was a fatal fire involving a line-of-duty death fire of Thomas Stewart out of Gloucester City, and I believe 3 children were killed in that fire as well. And I remember that fire because there was a tremendous amount of conversation that spurred from it. Back in the early 2000s, things were, you know, the fire service was progressing and changing, and I think that this fire highlighted some of the issues within the American Fire Service, not just in New Jersey, and you were directly involved, and so I know you're going to share some of that story today, but I just remember as a young firefighter hearing about that fire because it was local. I mean, it's 2.5 hours down the road, but that's still local to me when it comes to the fire service. Yeah. And so on. So I just want to thank you for joining me today. Let's start with this. Recently promoted to captain. How's that going?
Yeah. You know, you want to F around and find out. You know, you want to take the test. You want to get promoted, and yeah, it's a huge responsibility. As a fireman, it's like, you take care of yourself, you look after yourself, but now you're a boss, and, I say this all the time to people, you're not in charge, you're responsible. You're responsible for the people that are in charge of taking care of the people. So, yeah, it's a tremendous honor. It's something that took me 20 plus years to get to. I worked my ass off to get to that point, and, the higher you go, the more you lift, the more you have to hold.
What does it look like for you? Gloucester City, I'm sure, has grown over time. I know that whole area of New Jersey down there has had growth over the years, from going from volunteer departments to now career departments. Some are still combination departments. But what does it look like for you? Has Gloucester City been growing and changing over your tenure there?
Yeah, I mean... The city has, we were a combination department back in the day. Gloucester City, the inception of the city was 1623. One of the oldest cities in the state.
Wow.
And we are now in 2024. We are a fully career department. We do not have volunteers anymore.
Right.
That's where we're at. I mean, population has grown. Just like every other, there's only 2 cities in Camden County, Gloucester City and Camden City. And Camden City's right on the other side of the Walworth Bridge.
Yeah. And, I mean, so that area, I mean, it's prone to fire duty. You guys, I know years ago were, and I'm sure you still are. What does it look like for you? Are you a captain of the engine company? Where are you?
I'm a captain on the squad. We're a one horse show. We have a squad company, and we have a battalion chief, and we're at a 5-man company. So you have a captain and 4, and we have a battalion chief that also comes out of the house as well.
Okay, and it's a small town, right?
2.5 square miles.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.5 square miles. We do about 1,600 runs a year.
Got it.
My wife is a police officer in the city as well. And let's just say that they have almost 40-some cops for 2.5 square miles.
There you go. Yeah. Well, it's not, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a tough town. There's a lot of people packed within the boundaries of that for sure. I know you guys see your fair share of work, and you obviously go outside the borders too. That whole area is prone to work with one another, right? So I think mutual aid is a big part of it, especially when you're running a single company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we say it all the time. That whole it's John Wayne time. 5 to 7 minutes. You're by yourself. You got five guys. You got a chief, and what kind of impact can you make in those 5 to 7 minutes? It's before I got promoted, chauffeuring the truck. There's been many a times where I'm standing in the street looking at the battalion chief, and I don't hear sirens, and I'm like, we got a fire, and I don't hear any sirens. Like, is anybody coming to help us? So your tactics and what you can do, the small unit tactics that we have adopted, they have to be on point, or you're burning blocks down.
There's something to that, and that's what I was going to say. Is like, it doesn't matter if you have 5 or 40 on the initial, the same work has to get done. You got to prioritize, and you got to multitask very, very well in getting your job done. Whether it's getting water to the fire, searching on that floor above, or the fire floor, it's got to get done. Yeah,
no, absolutely. The transitional attack that that's out there now. I know in studying for my last promotional exam. That is a tactic that, you can actually say in your promotional exam for the state of New Jersey now. I remember going to my study group with Chief Drennan, my mentor, the huge reason why I got promoted and I scored, I think, the 5th highest score in the state of New Jersey. When we were studying, the guys from Jersey City and Newark and stuff like that looked at me and go, wait, you spray water from the outside and then you go in? And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing this for decades because this is the hand we're dealt. But I think done properly, it's a time machine. It pushes the pause button. But some departments don't look at that. They look at that as, you're being a wuss. You got to go in there and put the fire out. Well, yeah. How many dudes do you show up in the first 5 minutes with, versus 7 or 5 guys?
Yeah, I also think, too, that the whole term transitional attack to me is, we always fight fire from the inside out, but we have to be able to get inside.
Absolutely.
Like, we gotta punch it and then get in. I mean, there's no doubt, right? So, depending upon what it looks like in your staffing and your abilities and all that, sometimes you're gonna have to make it happen. So I get that completely. I'm really interested in, I guess a little bit about you, right? So it's one thing where you are today, 20 something years later, sitting in the captain's seat of the squad company there. But, the early days for you got hired in 2000, I believe, correct?
Yes. I got hired my first day, May 8th, 2000.
And before that, you volunteered down in that area, Westville, New Jersey, which I know a bunch of guys down there, the chief very well. He was on the podcast a while back. Like, really good culture, squared away combination department there. Your roots, how important were those to where you are today?
Tremendous. When I started out in Westville, I was 19 years old, thinking I'm an athlete, I should be good at being a fireman, right? I just listened, you had Rob Ramirez on the show.
Right.
I mean, I never met that dude in my life, but I follow him. I listen to the shit he says, and talking about being varsity, right? And I was like, yeah, not knowing what I was getting into, and then when I went to Westville, that's where the whole, if you're going to be good at this job, this is the discipline, this is the attention to detail that you need to have, those guys, and I still go, I was there this morning, I work out in their gym. And I was just talking to Chief Farley today. I told him I was coming on here.
Eric's a good guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah. And I mean, he's known me since I'm 46 years old. He's known me since I was 19.
Right.
That was like that was the farm system for me, man. That's where I started. That's where my roots are. I mean, at the time that I got hired in Gloucester, I think we turned out like 9 guys that all went career in different departments, whether it be Camden, Mount Laurel, Cherry Hill. The place is, it's a feeder system.
I love that.
It's a feeder system and they're successful guys that come at it. Like, they teach you how to be successful. They lay that foundation on, if you're going to be good at this job, this is what you need to do,
Yeah, I mean, I'm making notes here because I absolutely love it. We talk a lot on this program and a few others that I've been involved with, talking about the importance of going after athletes. You know, this job is not for everyone, and we want people that come from an organized sports background. I firmly believe that because they have an understanding of what it means to be a part of something bigger than them. They understand where they fit in. They understand how important the process is, and it takes training and dedication and work to be able to perform. And you can just take that model and just lay it right over to fire service. Those are the people we need. And I love how you said farm system, because that's a great way to look at it, right? Is like the true testament, I think, to a lot of volunteer fire departments is how many career firefighters do they create?
Yeah.
These are kids that are impressionable in their younger years, and they come into the volunteer fire service, and there's upheld traditions and culture there that want them to be better, want them to get better at firefighting, and then they want to make it their career.
Yeah.
Like, some guys know that going into the volunteer firehouse. I don't think a lot do. A lot of them have ideas of being something else until they get there and go, holy shit, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shit, this is real life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Real fast.
Yeah, for sure. So what did your early days in Gloucester look like for you? Because, I mean, I mentioned the fire before on July 4th of 2002, so only 2 years in with Gloucester City. You were involved with this fatal fire, this line of duty death fire that occurred that morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's permanently burned into my brain, you know, that night. You know, back then we had an ambulance, you know, we had a bus. So you had 2 guys on the bus, you had 2 guys on the engine, and you had 1 guy on the ladder.
Wow.
That was it. And, you know, that night, you know, Tommy Stewart, you know, his dad, Big Tom, was on the job with us as well. You know, I knew him growing up. Like I said, I lived around the corner from him, me and my brother. And, you know, I knew him and his brother. And you know, I remember the first day I walked in, he was working, and I worked on the ambulance with him. And he said, hey, man, you know, be careful what you wish for, because you got it. You know, and it's not what it looks like from the outside. And, you know, that fire that night, like I said, not to get into the strategy and tactics of that night, because I mean, look, we got our RPP smacked by the division, by OSHA, by all the alphabet police for the things that we didn't do. I think there were 16 things that we got cited for that we did wrong or didn't do at all. But you know, that night, that was you know, that we had 8 guys trapped.
The fire came in. It came in with reports of people trapped. I mean, it was a well-involved residential structural fire, correct?
Yeah, it came in as people trapped. And the funny thing is well, not the funny thing, but you know, I was standing out front on the apron smoking a cigarette. You know, everybody smoked back then, right? My lieutenant and the senior guy that was driving the engine that night is a paramedic. He was a Navy corpsman in Vietnam. I mean, this guy saw.
Yeah.
He saw it, did it, got the movie rights, got the posters. Like, he's this dude. Never saw either one of them run in my 2 years that I was there at that point. And that night when the bell rang, and I saw them run out to the truck, and I never saw that before. And I was like, this is not going to be good. And you know, we got in the truck, and when we turned on the North Broadway, it looked like the sun came up down there, the Walt Whitman Bridge. You know, there was that much fire.
Yeah.
You know,
small town. You're gonna see it, and you're gonna be on it quick.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we were there. You know, it was a twin end of the row, it was a 3-story twin wood frame balloon frame, end of the row, right on the corner. You know, the end of the row was that 2. I don't get the addresses wrong, but the corner house was well involved.
Yeah.
I mean, it was burning to beat the band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you could see pictures of it online and stuff like that. And you know, and we had people. We had a woman showing from the second floor window on the Bravo side exposure. You know, I could see as soon as I got out of the truck. I looked up. I saw her. I went to grab a ladder, and you know, my boss told me, get a line, get in there, and get her. Again, not to get into the tactics and what we did and you know how things went. I can tell you this: all these years later, if I have that fire, I go to work on Wednesday. and I'm the boss and we go to that fire again, I do things differently.
Yeah.
I make different decisions. But, back then, 2 years on the job, right? I got a Superman pen in my pocket because I think I'm Superman,
Right.
right? I know everything.
Right.
And that job humbled a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can get it. I think we all have a fire or two that we want back. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
From there, you guys were dealt a tough hand. We talked about at the beginning of this podcast where we talked about, everything matters at that moment, right? You got staffing levels, fire conditions on arrival, building construction. It seems like the cards were absolutely stacked against you that night. It was what was it, late at night or early morning?
I think the box went out at like 1:36 in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from there, you have multiple companies coming in. With the presence of people trapped, you guys obviously went to getting a line in place and getting people out of that building. And mutual aid companies coming in, and then there was a catastrophic collapse of the fire building, correct?
Yeah. I think it was 36 minutes into the job. The building collapsed, trapping 8 guys, plus the 3 young kids, the 3 young girls that were Claudia, Claudette, and Alexandria were the girls' names. Permanently.
Sure. What was that for you at that moment? Were you caught in the collapse?
I literally had just come outside. So I'm the only guy left in the department that was actually working that night.
Okay.
So I had just come outside to get my bottle changed, and it was like 98 degrees that night with like 100% humidity. It was I just remember saying to myself, man, why am I so tired? Like I normally don't feel like this at fire. You get the adrenaline going. Sure. And I came outside. I was getting my bottle changed. I just got my bottle changed. I was getting ready to pick my helmet up. And, I heard a crack, just like, a lot of people heard. And next thing you know, the building's on the ground. I mean, it happened that fast. And I thought, back then, I thought I was good at what I did. And, again, being humbled. Yeah, that fire, that fire had humbled a lot of us. And when the building collapsed, we knew people were in there. Like I just saw Tommy on the front porch. I just saw Chief West on the front porch. So I knew there was guys trapped. And when I looked at the accountability board that was being kept by a police officer, and I saw Tommy's name, and not knowing what to do, not having the same training that I have now, the collapse training that I have now, and everything like that, I don't know what to do. A lot of us, like, it took a minute for, like, we all stood there and looked at the building, and we were like, oh my God, what do we do now?
Yeah. It's taking that moment to understand what happened around you, and then it's getting to work. And it said that there were 8 firefighters trapped. The 3 children that were lost that night were also involved in the collapse. Were you part of the recovery? I mean, was it all hands on deck at that point? Because I know early 2000s, like RIT teams, fast teams were just becoming a thing. Like we didn't run them in the early, late 90s and early 2000s. And that's right around the time in the fire service that I think the department started recognizing the need for them and dedicating a company for our own protection where, years past, it was just understood that we would take care of each other on the fire ground. And so you guys did not have a dedicated RIT or fast team in place that went to work. It was the guys that were already spent. You said you were exhausted. It was a tough, humid night. I'm sure the smoke's hanging real low. It's hot as can be. You're already spent, and now you got to go dig for one of yours.
Yeah. I'm directly involved in the rescue recovery operation. I would say at that point it was a rescue operation.
Sure.
Ourselves and Ladder Company 2 from the city of Camden They were the first due truck, and here I find myself, 24 years old, laying in this little void space, hearing guys cry out, hearing guys, call out, watching a guy literally almost drowned because the building's still on fire. The roof's on fire.
Sure.
We're trying to put water on it. And, watching, literally laying there and watching this guy almost drowned and trying to hammer a hole in the floor so that the water drains into the basement that he don't drown. Again, I couldn't tell you who the RIT team was that night. I have no idea. But thinking back, looking back on it, I'm like, how do I, as the first due engine company, wind up as a guy that's involved in pulling guys out? But again, hell's paved with good intentions, man. It's
There's a lot of truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. What did it look like for that night to get those out? Was it some of them were able to get out fairly easy, and then was your friend Tommy? Was he was heavily trapped, or?
So we pulled out. We pulled out the guys that were recoverable, and they all lived. Tommy Stewart, Jimmy Sylvester, and John West were the 3 firemen that were killed, and they were all together right around the living room area, right on the couch in the living room. At that point, we could not get to them, and we pulled back. And it was, we're like, well, what are we going to do? And at that point, we knew it was a recovery effort. And the chief of the department at the time, he called in Philadelphia Rescue 1, and it was the first time I think in Rescue 1 Philadelphia's history that they've ever gone out of the state. And they came in, and for years, that bothered me. That pissed me off because I was like, why are you calling somebody from another state to come get our guys? These are our guys. But then as I got more mature, I realized, you know what? It was a really good call because they're not emotionally invested to the guys that are missing. The chances of the guys on Rescue 1 in Philadelphia knowing the guys that are trapped in that are presumed dead now, the chances of them knowing them are slim to none. So they're not emotionally invested in the recovery operation. Now, the crazy thing is now I teach with a guy who works Philadelphia Rescue 1. So I can't say that now because there's a chance that my friend Derek is working Rescue 1 in Philly and I get trapped and he's got to come get me out. But I know what I'm getting from my friend Derek. He's a high-speed dude, man. He's a high-speed dude. So
that's who you want coming.
Yeah. So it was a life-altering, life-changing experience for a lot of people. That still lingers. I still find myself getting a little emotional about it. All these years later.
Of course. I get it. I mean, sure. I mean, it's super personal, and you were directly involved, and you were spared that night. Yeah. There's that too. So, what did it when after recovery, the process, the funerals, the wakes, the fellowship, all of it, right? I mean, it's all part of the process, and they say it's part of the healing process, but I know in this job, so many don't heal. It's hard to heal. What did it look like for you, and how difficult was it to come back to the firehouse when everything was said and done?
Well, we got 3 funerals in a week. Yeah. So you got a viewing, a funeral, a viewing, a funeral, a viewing, a funeral. And then the kids' viewing and the kids' funerals. It was, we did what we know. We tried to help each other out, and we did what we do in Gloucester. So the city of Gloucester was actually a question on Jeopardy. The most bars and churches per capita.
Is that right?
The city of Gloucester was the answer, right?
Yeah.
So it's an Irish Catholic town. Got a lot of bars. We don't have the same bars that we had, but like when I was a kid growing up. So let's say alcoholism and alcoholics kind of we don't want to say they're grown, but they are kind of grown in Gloucester. And that's what we did to try to push this feeling and the emotions, and we just drank.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Was that the healing mechanism, or at least you thought it was? It numbed it.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was, right?
Yeah.
I we did what we thought was going to help us, and we don't want to. We're hard dudes, man. We're firemen, so
Yeah.
we need to suppress. We can't show emotion. You show emotion, you show weakness, right? At least that's what we thought, and how that was the catalyst for me in what I've been through. That was that first domino for me that fell, and more dominoes kept falling.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I mean, I understand it, but over a career, I mean, you dealt with something that many firefighters have not dealt with, and that's losing a friend and a brother on the job during a fire, where we think that we are in control, and we think that we're always going to be coming home, and unfortunately 3 of your brothers were lost that evening. But then after that, it's the next tour and the next tour and another tragedy and so on, and they pile up. Are those the dominoes that you're talking about?
Yeah. So this is 2002, right? This
Yeah.
is, and I'm a young dude, and I'm quelling those emotions with what I think is the right thing, like a lot of us did. And this starts adding up, and in 2004, at this point we're at war. We're 4 years into or 3 years into the war. My younger brother is in the Marine Corps. He's done 2 tours in Afghanistan. Now he's on his 3rd tour in Iraq.
Wow.
In Ramadi. And in November 15th, 2004, he got killed in action.
Wow.
Yeah. So now let's add that domino.
Yeah.
Another domino falls. And I developed at that point I developed a pretty healthy drinking habit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it a habit. It was almost like a hobby. I can laugh and smile about it now because I know eventually where that led me. And I went through a bad divorce in 2010. And then 2012 rolls around, and I have to resign from the department because so many dominoes have fallen at this point that my drinking, my alcoholism is just out of control. I am a full-fledged card-carrying member of alcoholism. And, looking back on it, I could say, well, my best friend got killed right in front of me. My brother got killed. I went through a divorce. Doesn't, I look back on it now and I'm like, they're just excuses, And I got so bad into drinking that I could justify waking up and drinking because the sun came out.
Right.
Oh, the sun's out. It's a good day to drink.
Yeah.
Right? Don't have to work today. Good day to drink.
Yeah.
And I became, I had 2 kids. I was married, and that I was a horrible father. I was an absentee father. Things just, they say Rome wasn't built in a day. It wasn't built in a day, but it also didn't fall down in a day.
Yeah.
Like over time, it fell down, and that's exactly what happened in my life. it just, it seemed like it happened so fast, but it really didn't. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, no, it really didn't. This started in, 2000, when I got on the job,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then all that tragedy just helped those dominoes.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you at the time? Did you recognize it? I mean, I know you do now, and so on. But I guess why I'm asking that is because I think people that are going to listen to this, we know alcoholism is rampant in the fire service. We know divorce is certainly prevalent, and being an absent father or not partaking in family activity, all these things, right? I mean, this job is just plagued with, the collateral of what we all deal with, right? And some more than others. And your story is, I mean, it's just challenge after challenge and so on. So at the time, though, did you, when was it, I guess, when you started realizing, like, this is, I mean, you always wanted to be a fireman. You had to resign from the job, right? You had this, a love for the fire service that now you had to walk away from, and that's just one aspect of your life that I'm sure unraveled for you. When was it when you were like, I got to take charge of this? Did you recognize it all leading up to it, or?
I mean, yeah, I mean, towards the end there, I was like, I got a problem.
Yeah.
But, caught up in that, in that alcoholism, you can justify just pretty much anything.
Right.
That I don't have a problem. And, I had a guy one of the guys from the firehouse came to my apartment one day. And the funny thing is he's my battalion chief now. He's the boss that I work for. He came to my house at 9:00 in the morning one day. And he was like, hey, man, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, hey, what's up? I thought something was wrong with him. And I said, yeah, man, come on in. He comes in. I'm still hungover from the night before. And I go over to the refrigerator. It's 9:00 in the morning. I get a beer. I'm like, you want a beer? He's like, it's 9:00. I'm like, so what? And he's like, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. He's like, dude, you got the potential to be one of the best firemen in this department ever. Like, you have the potential to be the Patty Brown, right? Patty Brown, because I remember when he started, I told him about Patty Brown. I'm like, look this dude up. This is the guy you want to model yourself after, And he's like, you got that potential. And he goes, you're throwing it away, dude. You're throwing it away. And I did what you do. I just yesed him to death.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah. No, I got it under control. But I knew. When I was having to wake up and drink a beer before I went to the gym, or before I went to my part-time job. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? I got a bunch of excuses that I can use to tell you why I'm at this point in my life.
Yeah.
And when I lost it, when Rome finally fell down for me, I lost everything. Found myself with the only thing I had was my car. And I found myself in Atlantic City, sitting on the boardwalk on a bench, panhandling for change because I ran out of money. Wow. And all I wanted was another drink. Eating out of trash cans. Yeah. Had everything. Great career, best job in the world, great reputation. Working, I worked part-time for safety and survival, helped found the company. And here I am, homeless, sitting on the boardwalk. Actually, I think me and my wife were down there like last year, and I she knows, my wife now knows all about this, and I actually took a picture of the bench that I used to sit on. Yeah. Just to remind myself. I actually told my wife, I said, I'm going to get this tattooed on my body, because I got tattoos. She's got tattoos. And I said, I'm going to get tattooed. And she's like, why would you do that? I'm like, because I want to remind myself that this is where you were.
Yeah.
And that's where you can be. It's not going to take a whole lot for me to get back to that point.
How did you get back? You climbed your way back, brother. I mean, look at where you are today. You climbed your way back. How did you find your way back?
Well, I mean, when I resigned, losing everything that, the firehouse, everything just kind of disappeared. And my part-time job, I worked as an ER tech in the hospital. And they actually got a hold of me eventually. And they were like, hey, you still have insurance. Give us your insurance. We're going to get you in rehab.
Wow.
So my part-time job saved my ass. Not the firehouse. Not the people in the firehouse. That whole brotherhood thing till the end. Nah. My part-time job saved my ass. And when I got out of rehab, they said, come back here. We're going to give you we'll get you full-time. And yeah, and that began that 5-year climb, that 5-year journey. I almost got put in jail because pay child support. Rack up a $22,000 child support.
Right.
Judge was like, I'm gonna throw you in jail right now. And I actually thought about it for a second. I was like, I know a lot of people that work there. It might not be that bad. Funny thing is I wind up working there 5 years later.
Really?
As a correctional police officer. I got hired. So, that was the...
Were you ready to go to rehab? Were you when they told you, hey, we want to do this, you can do this, you weren't ready? No, because of working in the fire service, being an EMT, working on an ambulance, working in a hospital in the ER. I take care of the alcoholics and drug addicts in the hospital. I take alcoholics and drug addicts to the hospital. I'm not one of those people. Yeah.
My how you get humbled. Yeah, and I did, and I got humbled, and I remember my first couple days there, I was like, I don't belong here. I'm not one of these people. I'm the guy that takes these people to the hospital. I'm the guy that takes care of these people in the hospital.
Right.
And I remember one of the counselors saying to me, like, hey man, not for nothing, but guess what? You're one of these people. And once I surrendered, once I gave into the fact that I am one of these people, that made it easier for me to go through that, being there. It definitely made my 28 days there a lot easier. I made some good friends, and doesn't matter what you do, and then having to go into AA and stuff like that. And I've met CEO of companies. I mean,
sure.
The guy that was the head counselor in my rehab was a retired Delaware State Trooper.
Right.
And he went to rehab with like one of the executives of Ford. I've been to meetings where I got airplane pilots,
right.
craftsmen. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Don't give a shit what you do.
It's a disease.
Yeah, it is. It is a disease, but I don't use it as an excuse.
Right. I get it. I've witnessed it, and I get it, and I think I understand. I mean, I've never been in your shoes, but I know that sometimes we need to check out, and sometimes we need to find our crutch, and sometimes we need to disappear when we don't get the help that we need, and we don't a lot of times recognize that the help is there, and we don't recognize that we need it until it's too late. And I think a big part of your story is the climb back. The way you said that Rome didn't collapse in a day, just like, or it wasn't built in a day, it also didn't collapse in a day. And, it takes time, but you recognize that you have the time, and something in you wanted you to come back. Something in you pushed you to want to get back to where you belong. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't think, when this whole thing started, 12 years ago, this journey, I never thought, if you'd have told me 12 years ago when this whole thing started, like, hey man, if you just stick with the program and you do what you're supposed to and you maintain discipline, this is where you're going to be 12 years from now. You're going to get promoted to captain in September of 2024. You're going to be promoted to captain.
Right.
After everything you just been through. I would have told you you're fucking crazy. No way. But then I was like, going through this 5-year journey to get back to the department, I was like, well, who do I owe? Who do I owe? I owe my brother. I owe Tommy, I owe these people because I got a second chance. They didn't, right? They didn't get a second chance. They lost 2 lives. The one they were living, the one they would have lived, right? And here I am. What am I going to say? Woe is me. I lost my friend. I lost my brother. You have a disease. Let's use it as an excuse. I go to AA meetings still to this day, and I see the same people 12 years ago when I walked in the room asking for the same second chance. I got a second chance. I got a second chance that like 1 in a million. I hit the lottery twice. So this second go around on the merry-go-round is, I owe it to a lot of people. I owe it to myself, my kids, my wife, the department. It's easy to take the easy road of, well, I got a disease, and there's supposed to be some type of anonymity. That's why alcohol, it's anonymous, right? That's why when you go to a meeting, you don't say your last name. You don't even say your first name. But, in talking, when I got this opportunity, I was like talking to my mentors, guys like Brian Amenecker from the city of Camden. Just talked to him the other day. He's living in Tennessee. He's actually moving back here.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's moving back. Yeah. We're getting the band back together.
Oh, boy. Yep.
Yeah. He's like, dude, you got to get this out there, man. You got to tell people your story. And I wondered, talking to my sponsor, I'm like, should I put this out there? Because once you put it out there on the internet, it ain't going away. And then, are people going to look at me differently now? Places I go in the state, in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, teach classes. Do they look at me differently now because they're like, oh, wait, you got a disease, bro. Stay away from me. You can't catch it, right? You can't catch it. It's okay. You could talk to me. I can laugh about and smile about these things now, but I'll tell you right now, when you're panhandling for money so you can get a drink, you're eating out of a fucking trash can. Yeah. That's real life.
Well, thank you for sharing this story, and I know it can't be easy. I'm sure, maybe it's part of the healing, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I can say this, people will have incredible takeaways from this, and hopefully somebody listening that is dealing with the stressors of the job or life and have found a support system in not a healthy way, maybe this conversation will poke the bear a little bit and get them to, look at themselves for a minute, look inward and figure out maybe they're not where they want to be. I think the part of this story that is so important is that you rallied, you came back, and you owe those people in your life, and you found that as your support system to now get where you are today. You resigned in 2012, and then you got hired back in 2018, and today you sit as today you sit as the squad captain within the company.
Yeah,
worked your way back, bro. You should be very proud of that. Life is a crazy thing. We go up and down. Life is full of tragedy. It's full of happiness. It's how do we deal with the in-betweens of those, right? Because it's the highs on both sides of the spectrum. It's how we deal with bridging those.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
made your way back.
yeah. My sponsor tells me, he's like, when you got sober, I used to, talk to him every day when I first got sober. I talked to him every day. I talk to him
Right.
once a week now. He used to tell me, can't you just be happy at the fact that you're sober? Can't you just be content with that? And I'm like, no. Because at that point, I'm like, I could still do this job. I could still do the job that I love.
Yeah.
And I took every test that came down the road. And I wound up getting hired as a correctional police officer for the city of Camden County Jail. Place I almost got put. And while I was in the academy at my range week, I got a phone call from the fire department saying, hey, you want to come in for an interview? And I was like, for what? They're like, to get hired. I said, for what? I said, I'm in the police academy. They're like, no, you want to get hired to come back to the fire department, be a fireman. And I was like, wow, okay. And, when I had to make that decision, what do I want to do? Because literally at my police academy graduation, I had to hand my weapon over and my letter of resignation. But I was, at that point, I was like, no, I'm not going back. I'm going to go down this road because it's a clean slate. But I talked to, Tommy Stewart's mom, and I talked to her, frequently, because the crazy thing is Tommy's kid was 6 months old. Nicholas was 6 months old when Tommy got killed. Now, the other day I'm working. Young Nicholas is my nozzleman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. Pretty crazy. Tommy's kid now, he's on the job. And it's crazy ride. I didn't want to go back to the fire department. I wanted to go do the law enforcement thing. And, Tommy's mom told me, she's like, if Tommy was alive today, he would tell you flat out, you're not a cop. Go back to being a fireman. Go back to being what you're good at.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And, I'll tell you right now, when you go through that stuff, at least for me, in my experience, right? When I went back to the fire department, there was motherfuckers there that didn't want me there.
I'm sure.
There's probably one or two guys in that department right now to this day that still don't want me there or don't think I deserve to be back there. But you're gonna have those haters. Haters are like crickets, man. When you're not around, they chirp their ass off.
Yeah.
And they're waiting. They're waiting. They're out there waiting for you to stumble, for you to fall. They're holding their breath, waiting for you to fail. And like my friend Brian told me, he's like, make them suffocate. They're going to hold their breath so long, they're just going to suffocate. You don't need people like that in your life. Just cut them out. Like cancer, just cut them out. And, I am so thankful that people ask me what was the most important part of where you're at now. I would say the part where I failed. The part where I failed. I tell people all the time, I've failed more than I've succeeded in life, and that's made me who I am now. I'm the person now because of everything that I've gone through and things that I still go through. Because guess what? Every day's not fucking sunshine and rainbows for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I get up every day. You want to listen to something impactful. The dude that used to be the coach of the Alabama, Saban.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about the importance of nothing.
Right.
The importance of nothing. You wake up every day, guess what you're owed? Nothing. Nothing. So at the end of the day, your best is the only thing that's acceptable. nothing else. The importance of nothing. So, it's they said in in AA, it's experience, strength, and hope. That's what we're here to share. So I share my experience, I share my strength, and I share my hope.
And I'm grateful you have. And like I said, I just it's a powerful story to going from top of the world to the bottom and then back up again, where you are today, and that we've met, and I'm able to share your story on our channel just is important, because I know the stressors that are out there. I talk with a lot of people every single day, and I know what plagues the fire service, and I know the things that we don't talk about. We don't talk about it. These are the things, what we just discussed today, are things that are not talked about. People have their personal struggles. It's almost daily that we see somebody somewhere within this line of work has taken their life or have disappeared off the map, and we don't know where they are or how to get them back. And are we even paying attention enough to care? These are things that we got to do. We got to do a better job at this. I can't imagine it was easy for you to walk back into the doors of that firehouse after that time away. I can't imagine that it's easy to deal with the haters when the haters are there. And, it's all part of the process. But I think to watch you rise again and have a captain spot now and, head on straight, and you have a beautiful, tribute behind you and wonderful memories of people that have supported you and taking responsibility. It's all part of the process, man. This is a long game. There is nothing in life happens quickly. Everything takes time.
Yeah, your success takes time.
Yeah.
To get to, the top of the mountain takes time.
Sure does.
But you know what also takes time? The loss of all that. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
Didn't fall down in a day.
Yeah.
Like, if you continue down this road, this is the end result. I can tell you this is the end result. So go ahead to that scale, as I like to tell people when I teach. Go to that scale, fuck around and find out. You're going to find out. And like I said, I hit the lottery twice. 2000, May of 2000, I hit the lottery. February of 2018, I hit the lottery with the best vocation, in my opinion, in the world.
Yeah.
But that park bench, right? I framed it. I'm in my office right now because I have an office now. I was sleeping on a bench 12 years ago. Now I have an office.
Yeah.
That picture is hanging on my wall. So that every day when I come in here, I see that picture. It reminds me, hey man, you wind up back there. Go ahead. Fuck around. Don't do what you're supposed to. Don't do the things that got you to this point. And like I said, not every day, not every day sunshine and rainbows for me, man. It's just like everybody else, But I think, in this business, we kind of push past that. You're going through some things. People die. It's part of the job, right? It's all part of the job. You're supposed to put it in your pocket. Well, eventually your pocket's going to fill up, and something's going to give, and you find yourself sitting on a bench asking for change, going, how the fuck did I get here?
I think super powerful right there, what you just said. And what I'd like to say is this, is that everyone deserves a chance. And, we all don't live a modeled life, and we all deal with our pockets being full in different ways. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out. But I would also implore people to ask, to get involved, to pay attention, walk with your head up and not with your head down. How many people walked away from you when you were down, right? How many people weren't there to want to pick you up or to even get involved? And what I would say is this, we always have a few people that seem to care and others seem to turn away. And, man, it's not easy. None of this is fucking easy, bro. This whole conversation today was not easy. I mean, and you lived it. And I would say this is that, you are a true testament to how we can get back and how you can climb back. And it takes work and accountability and all those things that you talked about today. And I'm so grateful that you shared your story. And I know this has been a super heavy conversation.
Yeah.
But,
you get a little emotional because,
of course,
everybody wants to be a fucking gangster until it's time to do gangster shit. I tell people that all the time. I was just teaching a Swiftwater class the other day. So everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit, and we look at the, feelings as not being gangster. Like who has time for feelings in this business? But understand this, eventually, if you don't deal with that shit is going to not pop its head out of the closet. It's going to blow the door off the closet. It's going to tackle you to the ground, and there ain't shit you can do about it. And then it's going to be, how did I wind up on a bench in Atlantic City asking for change?
Yeah. Today, are you focused on your people? Do you dial in harder than you've ever dialed in before with seeing those around you, being a part of those around you? I mean, is that part of what you've become and who you are? We've hired a lot of young kids. My Nosman is 24 years old. I got Tommy Stewart's kid. You were 24.
That I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
You're not in charge. I've heard, I forget who I heard this from, but they said you're not in charge. I think it was Simon Sinek. You're not in charge. You're responsible.
Yeah.
There's a difference. You're in charge of the people you're responsible for the people that are in charge of taking care of the people. That's what you are. Your bugles on your collars aren't microphones. And I see these young kids come in the door, and I kind of laugh because I'm like, man, I was that dude. Now I'm that guy saying that.
Yes.
And it's such a. I try to learn every day about this job. The passion and grit got me to this point. And that's what, motivates me every day is like, you're responsible for people now. Before you were just responsible for yourself. Now you're responsible for these other people. So you owe it to them. You owe it to their families to be at the top of your game.
Yeah.
And that's no bullshit. You owe it to them. You owe it to their families. Because guess what? If something goes sideways, you're the first person. If we win as a company, the men deserve the praise. If you lose as a company, you as the boss, you're the first person that gets blamed.
Yep.
And you need to take that responsibility. And if you're not accepting of that, I don't know what to tell you. Go collect fucking stamps.
There's a lot of truth to that. And I think that comes with time and experience. I think that is part of the disconnect is that, where we are today, we need leaders and bosses that have come up and spent time in these different positions. And, part of who you are today is the downside of the process. And it's not our wins that make us who we are. It's our losses, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Show me a guy who's never failed. I'll show you a guy who's never succeeded.
It's true.
Maybe he succeeded in his mind, but if you haven't failed, you really haven't even tried. Because you know what? Fear has killed more dreams than failure ever has.
You're right.
I am a part-time practitioner in the art of folding clothes with people in them. Jiu-jitsu, right?
Right. Yep.
Been doing it a couple of years. I'm only a blue belt, right? But I think for when you get older, the hardest part about jiu-jitsu, the hardest belt to reach is white. The white belt. Because you know what? You have to actually start.
Yeah.
You actually have to start. And, it's the whole, I gotta be honest with you. My wife worked last night. She's got to work tonight. And I was downstairs pacing in my living room for an hour leading up to this. scared to death.
Yeah.
Scared to death. I've
Yeah.
spoken in front of 300-400 people before about tactics and strategies.
Sure.
Didn't think about it one bit. How'd I wear one of the microphones and shit like that? Like, I'm talking to you. I'm downstairs pacing the floor. She's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "What's the matter?" She's like, "Why are you pacing the floor?" I'm like, I'm scared to death right now."
Yeah.
It's like, you talk for a living. I'm like, "Yeah, but this is different. I'm talking about me."
Yeah. That's it.
You know? You want to
That's
talk
it.
about strategy and tactics of the transitional attack? I can go on and on and on and on and not bat an eye. But when I have to talk about myself and what's happened to me, that changes things for me because, again, after all these years, I still catch a little emotion. My brother's anniversary just was 20 years, was the other day.
Wow. Well, I will tell you this. Being vulnerable and facing fear, a lot of times, like you said, we can go out and talk about anything and it's easy. But when it's inward and it's us and we're telling our story or we're allowing ourselves to open up and be vulnerable, it's a lot harder. And that is a fear you have to face. But I will tell you this, you speaking in front of a crowd of 300 talking about strategy and tactics versus your story today, this story today makes a bigger impact 10 times over. And I think that's the part of ownership that absolutely matters. And what you did here today, I think, will help a lot of people. And hopefully it's part of your process, too. And I just thank you. Thank you for allowing yourself to do this. I greatly appreciate it. You reached out, and we have mutual friends, and it was a story that I didn't know. And for you to join me today and to share just a small slice of what you've dealt with over the years. I will say this, man, I'm better for knowing you today. And I thank you for being here and taking ownership of helping others. Thank you. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me, like I said, for giving me the opportunity.
Of course.
For giving me this opportunity to, put myself out there. It's not like you said, it's not an easy thing to do. And I kind of question sometimes, like, did you really want to do that? I mean, I had to ask my director for permission to do this, and he looked right at me and he goes, "Absolutely. And if you need anything, call me."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you need to go talk about this stuff." Just like Brian told me, you need to get this out there, dude. He goes, because there's somebody out there right now that's going through the same shit. It's 12:22 in the afternoon on a Monday, and I guarantee you there's some dude or girl out there right now that's on the job, volunteer, career, doesn't matter, that's already a six-pack into it because they don't know what else to do, because they're going through it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story. Super powerful, brother. Chris Ryan, Gloucester City, New Jersey. My man, thank you. If somebody wants to reach out to you, if you're willing to share your information, or if somebody, can they get a hold of you anywhere or just find you on social media? Where can they reach out to you?
I'm on the Facebooks, the Instagrams.
Perfect.
Okay. You can reach out to me through that. If you really, really want to talk to me, you can call the fire department. You can call the Gloucester City Fire Department. The line. I don't want to put my cell phone out there.
Get it. I totally get it.
Because if somebody wants to play a joke and somebody wants to call my phone, you have to remember what my wife does for a living.
Yeah,
so
right.
She will find you.
Yes.
Right, and people think I'm scary. Not me. You got to worry about. It's that 5'3" blonde that carries a very large weapon that you have to worry about.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thank you, Chris, for joining me today, man.
Thank you for allowing me to come on here and just put myself out there. And
well, I think when we're willing to talk about things like this, we're hopefully pushing it forward and paying it forward. And I think that's what you did here today. And I think you're going to reach some people today that maybe didn't know they needed to be reached.
Yeah. guess what? If you're questioning for 1 second, like, I don't know, maybe I have a problem. Not really. As soon as you say that word, guess what? You got a problem, bro.
Yeah.
You got a problem. And it's okay. It's okay to admit it. You know, doesn't make you any less of a person, doesn't make you any less of a man. Yeah, there are people out there that are going to tell you you're weak and you're a bitch. Yeah, okay, I'm weak. Now, go ahead and walk 15 minutes in my shoes. See how weak you are.
That's it. You don't know what everybody else is dealing with. And, yeah, there's a lot to that. Chris Ryan, thank you, brother. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you very, very much. Hang out here. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'm going to come right back to you, okay? Don't go anywhere.
You got it.
Guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Tough conversation. Chris Ryan to share his story really gets the conversation going. And I end every podcast by saying this. Take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it. Because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. This one in particular, fellas, get out there and talk about it. Take care of one another and walk with your heads up, not with your heads down, and get dialed into your people. It's super important. Anyway, we'll see you at the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.